I mean, where's the Biden administration on all of this? Are they actively encouraging it? That's, of course, if he knows what day of the week it is.
Yes, they are. So let's just take, for example, men and women's sports. This is something that is an 80-20 issue in our society. People know that men should not be playing women's sports. And yet the Biden administration says this is a proposed regulation that you should be separating sports based on gender identity. So anyone who says that they're a woman can play on the women's team unless the school can give a really good reason why that person can't participate on that team. And of course, the schools don't know what a really good reason is, so they're just going to allow it because they don't want to get sued. They don't want to lose their money. So the Biden administration, instead of giving some clarity, saying this is an issue and just protecting minors, all I'm talking about is minors, people who are in school. Instead, they are part of the group that says, well, if we don't affirm a man's, gender identity, thinking that he's a lady, then it's going to be harmful to that man. And so we've got to instead kick off a bunch of ladies on the team. We have to make all the women feel uncomfortable. We have to put them all at risk of injury in order to protect this man. So the Biden administration has basically done exactly the opposite of what you would hope that leadership would do when you have a crisis of this nature in our young people.
Is that something to do with Title IX? Is that right? Would you be able to maybe educate some of our viewers and our listeners a bit about that?
Yeah, so Title IX was passed in 1974, and it provided that educational institutions have to provide equal opportunities for the sexes. And so really what this was originally intended to do was allow women to be in college and to take whatever major they wanted. Sometimes you could be let into college, but you could only major in home ec, those types of things. So no, if you've got to provide equal opportunity for both sexes. And it also applied to athletics. So you can't just have only men's sports and no women's sports. It's been super, super successful. Women used to play high school sports only at a rate of 300,000 across the nation. Now that's more than 3.5 million. But so Title IX just says you've got to have equal opportunity between the sexes. The Biden administration, in its mind, thinks that means you have to have equal opportunity based on gender identity, whatever that means. So in their opinion, no matter what your gender identity is, you have to be able to get into whatever sport you feel like. And of course, that's not what the law says. The law says equal opportunity for each sex. And if you put men on women's teams, you're taking away a spot for women. So you're actually violating Title IX. You're doing disservice to the law. So whenever Biden comes out with his final regulation there on sports, he is going to get sued, I would say, within 30 seconds of him releasing that rule.
Wow. I mean, that's bold. That's incredibly bold. You say that it's a real emergency. It's also pushed big time by major corporations with their advertising, major companies like Disney, for example, with the kind of product that they serve up designed at children, and a lot of mainstream establishment media outlets as well, who either subtly or in some cases very much on the nose actively promote things like Black Lives Matter, like radical gender ideology. What would your message to those people be?
Well, these corporations are scared. They're not leaders. I think actually a lot of the CEOs of these corporations are not radical leftists. They're just probably centrist. But what they're doing is they think that their ESG scores, that they're going to have better access to capital, that they're going to have better news stories, and therefore they're going to be able to sell more products if they use, gender confused advertisements, if they promote segregation based on race, basically. And so the problem from the corporations, it's a lack of leadership, but I think even higher than that, it is these ESG scores, and the ESG scores are controlled by a much smaller handful of people sort of in coordination with the U.S. government. When I was in the Trump administration, we had a rule basically saying that if you were going to invest money for reasons other than to increase the value of the company, if you were going to invest money to show how socially just you are, then that's illegal, that's not maximizing shareholder value. The Biden administration, of course, ripped that rule away. So there are things that the government can do. The government can say, no, I'm going to look out for shareholders and I'm going to make sure that their money is being invested in the way that they intend, which is that they'll have a retirement someday. But also, I think that it's going to require a serious infiltration of Wall Street. Everyone thinks, oh, Wall Street, they must be Republican. No, basically the opposite.
You mentioned Trump there. Would it be too blunt for me to say that if Americans want to save the children from this stuff and save a generation, then they have to vote Trump?
Well, we still have a primary to get through. And so I don't want to pretend like Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, or even Chris Christie, those are the people who are debating tonight, that they would do anything similar to what the Biden administration is doing. So I don't want to say it's as dire as you've got to go Trump. In fact, I think if you look at the state of Florida and what Ron DeSantis has done there, there's nothing left to do. He's basically done everything correctly. He's passed legislation to protect children in the schools. When Disney decided that it wanted to go woke, he punished them and is in a pretty epic ongoing battle. So, whether it is private corporations, whether it is schools, I think you've seen Ron DeSantis actually do the thing you would hope to be done.